of your apply.berklee.edu portal. You will receive a notification via email when your residence hall agreement is approved. Our typical review time is around 3 to 5 business days. Once you accept your housing decision, our systems will prompt you to submit full cost of housing payment. Unfortunately, we are unable to offer payment plans for housing at this time. Once your housing payment has been submitted, your spot in on-campus housing is officially confirmed. Space in Berklee residence halls is limited. Therefore, a spot in one of our residence halls will only be guaranteed once a student has both fully registered for their chosen program, has paid the program tuition, and has paid the housing fee in full. Any housing requests or payments made prior to the completion of both of these steps do not ensure a guaranteed place in on-campus housing. When it comes to submitting a payment for either tuition fees or housing fees, the Berklee Summer Programs team offers a wide variety of payment options. The payment page via the apply.berklee.edu portal allows for credit or debit card payments, as well as e-check payments, which would be a direct withdrawal from your bank account. For our students who might need an alternative payment method to debit or credit cards, or perhaps even an alternative payment method instead of an e-check, you are more than welcome to submit payment via wire transfer. This payment option is particularly helpful for our students with international bank accounts. You can read more about these options in the tuition and payment section of our website. As a quick note, if you are making a payment very close to the start of your program, it's worth noting that you'll need to pay by card in order to best ensure the payment's timely arrival. It's important for us to remind you that all payments should be made well in advance of your program start date, and that we are not able to accept paper checks, e-checks, or debit card payments at the point of check-in under any circumstances.
Our highest priority at Berklee is keeping our community safe and healthy so that everyone is able to thrive during their time here. With that, we're going to transition now into an important part of our preparation for the summer programs, our health and safety overview. Our priority is ensuring that our students have a safe, enriching, and enjoyable experience during their time with us. First and foremost, we have our Magnus Health Portal, which should be familiar to you as you should have received instructions on how to navigate by now. If you haven't started on completing the required forms with the Magnus Health Portal yet, we encourage you to familiarize yourselves with them now and to get started on them as soon as you're able. The first form in the portal is the Vital Health Record. This is a crucial document for us because it contains essential information that we might need in case of a medical emergency. Therefore, please take your time to fill this form out carefully and accurately. Next, we have the Student Code of Conduct and Liability Waiver. This form is agreement that you or your student promise to abide by rules, which helps us maintain the respectful environment that we pride ourselves on here at Berklee. Then we have two consent forms, the medical treatment consent for minors and the counseling consent for minors. These forms give us the authorization to provide life-saving medical care or mental health crisis stabilization services if the need arises. Finally, if your student is taking a prescribed substance, the authorization for medication administration form is required. This form helps equips our health team with the critical information they need to maintain a safe and supportive environment. One important note on that last point, if your student is bringing medication with them to the program, please ensure it is in its original prescription bottle. We will not be able to accept it otherwise, and we want to make sure that everyone's medication is managed appropriately and safely. We also want to make mention of our accessibility resources. If you need academic, housing, and/or dietary accommodations, you'll want to make your request including submitting documentation of your condition in advance. You can access more information regarding our accessibility resources by logging into your Magnus Health Portal and reviewing the Accessibility Resources Information form, or by filling out, or by routing, directly to the Accessibility Resources Summer Programs website. I believe that Julia will be putting that link in the chat in moments. Again, if you have not completed these forms yet, we encourage you to do so as soon as you're able to prevent any last-minute rush for outstanding information, time check, and move in for your program. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Julia.
Great, thanks so much, Lee. Aside from payments, housing, and health and safety, there are a few final items we'll ask that you complete prior to arriving for your home. The first of those is submitting a photo for your Berklee ID card, which you can do via the Next Steps tab of your registration portal. This step is applicable for all Boston-based programs, but not for our programs in Los Angeles. We ask that our Boston campus participants complete this in advance of their program's check-in day to ensure that your check-in process is as streamlined as it can be, as we'd like very much so to avoid long lines at check-in. If you are able to do this in advance, which, as a note, our team does recommend at least 2 to 3 weeks prior to the start date of your program, you'll be able to receive your ID card upon arrival at check-in and will have the access you need to various buildings on campus. For example, the buildings that you might have classes in, the dining hall, or where you might be staying for housing. Next, many programs require a placement assessment or survey, and tying into the next item here, this may include a placement video. A placement video is most commonly requested by our performance-based programs. We ask you to complete these prior to the start of your program so that our program faculty can create customized schedules for students and so that they can place students at the appropriate classes to ensure that participants are studying alongside peers at their same level or a similar level. In the event that you don't complete these prior to your program start date, it could result in a delay in obtaining your class schedule, or it could result in a delay in getting to class on time on that first day of your program. If a placement audition is required in advance of your program, you'll see it listed as a requirement on your specific program website. And with that, I'll hand it back to Lee.
Thanks, Julia. On the program preparation, next we'd like to share the check-in, move-in, and move-out details for our programs. All details regarding check-in, move-in, and move-out can be found on your program-specific website. We'll leave this up for a brief moment in case if you'd like to review this information or scan the QR code, which again will take you to our website where you can also find this information on your program's webpage.
Great, thanks, Lee. Moving on. Now that we've kind of given you the tools to locate those dates and times for check-in, we'd like to just quickly talk through what specifically to expect when you arrive on campus to check in for your program. First, you'll report to your assigned check-in location. All details regarding specific check-in locations will be sent to registered students about a week prior to your program start date. As previously mentioned, all program check-in dates and check-in times are already posted on each program-specific webpage. If you are in need of a specific address to use as a temporary location, for example, to gauge the distance between the airport and our campus, we recommend using 160 Massachusetts Avenue, which I can pop into the chat right now. When you arrive on campus, our team will take a moment just to assess the status of your health and payment requirements. If there are any outstanding items, you will just need to step aside and work with one of our summer programs team members to resolve them prior to checking into your program. Great, thank you so much. Once your health and payment requirements have been approved, you will officially be checked in for your program. At this point, if you are staying on campus with us, you will then be assigned a residence hall room and issued a key. All checked-in students will also be able to pick up their ID cards at this time. This will grant you building access and will allow you to scan into the dining hall with your meal plan if you are a residential student. If you are participating in any of our youth programs, which would include youth musical theater, day sessions music, or the Able Day Sessions program, your program director will provide you with your schedule information at the start of your program. Additionally, we'll be using an app called Guidebook this summer for each of our programs, with the exception of our songwriting workshop, whose program schedule will be housed in the Cvent app. If you were with us last summer, this is the app that we used last summer. So again, just that one program will be sticking with the Cvent app. Everybody else will be moving to our new app called Guidebook. All registered students will receive more information regarding both of these apps and their specific program schedule about a few days before the start date of your program. We'll ask you to download your program's app prior to arriving to the campus. You'll be able to use your app to connect with other participants in your program and also to view the most up-to-date information about the timing and location of specific events within your program. Please note, we are unable to provide students or parents with any specific schedule-related information. For example, what does the second day of my program look like, or what does a Tuesday morning look like? until that app is issued. So if you are eager to know what your schedule looks like, we encourage you to hang on and wait for that app to be issued before reaching out. And lastly, if you are planning to attend the Aspire 5-week program, there are just a couple additional steps for you to complete prior to your program, which you can read all about on your specific Aspire 5-week program website.
Thank you, Julia. As Julia has mentioned a few times throughout this webinar, completing your program requirements prior to your arrival on campus is absolutely critical to being able to start your program activities on time. Any student who is missing requirements or submits late requirements may experience a significant delay at check-in, which will prevent you from starting your program in time. Keep in mind, you will need to submit documentation via the Magnus Health Portal, and those submissions will also need to be reviewed and approved. It's important to leave time for submission review and for any corrections or updates that may be requested of you if a submission is rejected. Please aim to have all of your program requirements submitted no later than at least 2 weeks prior to the start of your summer program. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Julia.
Great, thanks so much, Lee. With that last little piece of information, we're going to wrap up the presentation portion of today's webinar and jump right into the question and answer session. As a reminder, if you have not already, please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen to submit any questions you might have. We have members of our advising team that will be answering your questions behind the scenes, and we'll be pulling a handful of questions to answer live as well. Just as a quick little heads up, just because we have just under 400 people watching with us right now, we will be pulling questions that are a little bit more general. So if you have like a really specific question, either for your student, for yourself, feel free to put it in the chat and one of our advisors will try to get to it today. But be prepared to perhaps shoot us an email after the webinar as well. Lee, we have a question that I think would be great for you to answer. We have somebody who's asked, they're asking, the question is, can you share housing with another student? So perhaps we can knock out 2 questions with 1 answer.
Sure.
So I think could either be, will I have a roommate? And also, if I'm coming with a friend, can I live with a friend?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to answer that. So everyone who is coming to our summer programs will have at least 1 roommate. They'll have anywhere from 1 up to 4 roommates, depending upon the size of the room that they're assigned to. Most of our rooms are typically either doubles or triples. I would say probably the vast majority of them are triples. Then there are a few quadruples as well too. But regardless, everyone will have at least 1 roommate or more when they are living here on campus. And if the question is in regards to asking about living with someone specifically, housing assignments are done at the point of checking in. And so what we say to do is we encourage you to try to check in as close to the same time as the other person that you would like living with as possible if you're able to make those arrangements. If you're not able to make those arrangements, we would encourage you to have some type of written documentation showing a mutual desire to live with another person and bring that just with you at check-in to show the person you are who is assigning the housing assignment to you. But if you're able to check in roughly at the same time or as close to the same time as the person you'd like to be housing with, that would be the ideal.
Great, thanks, Lee. For those of us who are viewers who perhaps have tuned into more than 1 webinar, I am wearing 2 hats today, so I will prompt this question for myself. We have somebody who is asking for the Aspire 5-week program. They've asked, once we arrive on campus for check-in, how long will it take to check in and get settled in the residence hall? One of the unique things about the Aspire 5-week program is that typically we welcome just over 1,000 students to the program. So as you can imagine, that check-in day is both very exciting and can just take 1 second. This year, we're really trying to move the line along by asking that parents and students arrive by last name, which is listed on the program website for a specific time breakdown. That way we can kind of move people along and not like all 800 to 1,000 students show up at 9 a.m. on July 5th. Having said that, our goal is always to move people through as quickly as possible. I believe last year we had a large surge at 9 a.m. and everyone was pretty much through the line at around noon. So we recommend people bring water. There will be some sunshade, but if you need additional sunshade, wear hats. Definitely wear water, or wear water, excuse me. Bring water, wear hats. Our hope is that it will take about an hour to two, probably an hour would be our goal this year to get people through the line. And then you have plenty of time on that first day to settle in. I hope that answered your question. Lee, we have somebody who's asked where they can find the student code of conduct.
Absolutely. I will copy and paste that into the chat. So it is on the summer programs, policies, and expectations page there. So in the link that I just posted. So if you visit the summer programs website at summer.berklee.edu and look at the enrolled students menu in the top, and then look at the click on policies and expectations, you'll be able to find a list of all of the rules that are associated with the student code of conduct there. Additionally, also, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
You can also, as you're going through the Diagnosis Health portal and the Student Code of Conduct and Liability Waiver form, there is a link within that form that's connected to that as well, and it gives kind of an overview of some of the other rules as well, but it does reference it there too. But again, I'd recommend going to the website at summer.berklee.edu.
Great. Thank you so much, Lee. We have a couple questions. I have seen 3 just in my one quick scroll, but I'm sure there are a couple more of people who are wanting more information regarding the final performance of their program, most likely because they have friends and family that they'd like to come see them perform. The final performance, like set in stone, will be issued with the app and the schedule. So just a couple days before the program. However, we do know that obviously that's not enough time for especially our week-long programs to like book a flight or something like that. So I'm going to send an article right now from our help center that has final performances listed. This is obviously always subject to change, but is a great idea of kind of what that last final performance might look like for each program, just to plan kind of around flights and making sure the people you want to be there are there. So hopefully that gives you a good enough of an idea to move forward with booking travel.
Julia, there's a question in here that I'd like to answer about housing checkout times, if you don't mind me taking the reins for a second. So the housing checkout times that are listed for a specific program are not the time that you need to check out. They're the time that you need to check out by. They are, the question was that if there would be any issues if the person needed to check out earlier, that's totally fine. The time that we list on the website is the time that you need to have, you or your student need to have all of your belongings packed up and moved out of the residence halls with your key returned to the security desk. So if you need to check it out beforehand, that's completely fine. Anytime from the final performance up until that check-in time is totally fine to move out. So we have to have a thing to check out earlier than the time is not only fine, it's encouraged.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. I can answer this next question. We have a couple people who are wondering, they're either registered to live on campus or are hoping to register for on-campus housing. They're wondering what they should plan to pack. So I'm going to very quickly send in the chat again the packing list for residence halls. This is a great bare bones kind of suggestion of what to bring. We recommend bringing most of the things listed on this packing list, but of course you're more than welcome to bring any other additional items that you'd like, as long as they're not part of the prohibited items at the bottom of the list. So just make sure you do a quick glance while you're packing. Lee, there was a question that I thought would be a good one. For our programs that have weekend checkout dates, so these will be mostly the Boston Conservatory programs. Mm-hmm. We have somebody who has indicated that they're checking out at 12 p.m. on a weekend, so a Saturday or a Sunday, and they're wondering if they can book a morning flight. Can you tell us a little bit about what that weekend checkout date looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. In general, if your weekend to checkout day is at noon on, say, a Saturday or Sunday, generally what that means is that your final performance will probably be sometime later in the evening or perhaps in the earlier parts of the evening, but the night before that. So we give students who are enrolled in our programs until noon the next day if they have their final scheduled performance or their final performance for their program the night before. So we give them until noon the next day to check out. And they're welcome to really, honestly, they can check out just about any time after the final performance ends. We do ask if you're staying at residence halls, please let us know if you do plan on checking out that Friday night or Saturday night if that is the final night of your program, so that we're not calling you wondering where your child is right in early morning. But if you are, if you only have, say, for example, a 6 a.m. flight that you can book for that Saturday morning, that's completely and totally fine. The checkout process is relatively informal. It's just you pack everything up, and then there will be a designated place within your residence hall, either with a security desk or in a specific key box towards the entrance where you drop off your key, and that's pretty much it. So, yeah.
Great, thank you, Lee. And then quickly, before this possibly oh my goodness, opens up the can of worms for more questions. Everything Lee has just said is really great. If your program is one of those weekend programs that has a weekend checkout time, if you have a Friday checkout time, it's likely that your final performance will be on that Thursday night. It's also very likely that there will be some sort of like closing, either like a breakfast or some sort of like goodbye in the morning on Friday, and it's our recommendation. Your move out time is listed as 7 p.m. on that Friday. It's our recommendation that you go ahead and budget leaving campus no earlier than 5 p.m. So an evening flight on that Friday is right on the money. That's a great option.
Thank you, Julia.
Yeah, of course, of course. I see a couple of questions about needing more information regarding what time is check-in, what day is check-in. So I'll just quickly reiterate, for all of our programs, including Aspire, that has 2 different dates listed for check-in, the first date of your program is the check-in date. So I can pull up the program probably pretty quickly. Let's see. For the brass workshop, for example, that program starts on June 17th. That means that your check-in for that program is June 17th. For Aspire, July 5th, if you're living on campus with us, is your check-in day. If you're a commuter student, we would recommend arriving on July 6th. So just keep that in mind, but both days are technically available. If you have like a wild flight or you're an international student, again, with a really crazy long flight, you can check in on July 6th. So just keep that in mind.
Julia, there's a question on here that I would like to answer, asking whether or not we're asking about a curfew, for residential students. So for students who are going to be under 18 years of age on day one of their program, so if they are 15, 16, or 17 years old on the first day of the program when they check in and move in their residence halls, then they will be assigned to a residence hall where there will be a curfew. So the curfew is at 10:30 p.m. every night, 7 days a week. And we will have staff that start promptly at doing the curfew checks at 10:30 p.m. And we do take curfew very seriously. Missed curfew can be grounds for disciplinary action and or potentially even early removal from a program. We very much want to know where everyone is and to be able to track everyone in that sense, to know where they're at and to know that they're safe in the residence halls. So again, we take curfew very seriously. So again, if the student is 15, 16, or 17 years of age on day one of their program, then they will be living at a residence hall that is subject to a curfew. If they are turning 18 during their program, they will still live in a residence hall that's subject to curfew. If they are over 18 years of age on the first day of the program, then they will not have a curfew.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. I've seen a couple questions from a wide variety of performing types, whether it be instrumental, vocal. of what gear should I bring. If I'm a guitarist, should I bring an amp? If I'm a vocalist, do I need a microphone? These are kind of both frequently asked questions in our inbox, and also I've seen a couple in the chat. So I'm going to share, again, a very helpful Help Center article link called Traveling with Instruments, which obviously, like the title says, has some great tips on, like, if I'm traveling with like a massive instrument, how do I do so? How do I best ensure the safety of my instrument? But also lists out really helpful information regarding what the expectation is for what gear to bring. It does also have information on what type of technology, if you're in one of our music production or what the EPD program, it'll have some tips on that as well. So if you've asked a question about that, your answer is coming in the chat right now. Let's see.
And while you do that, Julia, I'm seeing a theme among a few different questions regarding prescriptions. So I just wanted to kind of answer those, hopefully answer a number of those pretty broadly, if I may. So regarding prescriptions, if your child is taking any kind of a controlled substance, they are going to be required to hand that over to the nurse. So controlled substance is anything that I believe is categorized as a Schedule 1 through 4 drug in the FDA. I could be getting this wrong, so please don't quote me on this, but anything that would be typically considered controlled substance, they will need to have that over the nurse, and the nurse will take care of dispensing and administering the prescription during their program. If it is not a controlled substance, then the student is welcome to do as they will with it. If they want help with the prescription, if they need help with administering the prescription, our nursing team would be they're welcome to check that in with the nurse as well too, and to have get their help with the prescription administration in the mornings. And there's questions about Tylenol and Motrin and things of the like. So I just wanted to make clear we do have a nurse on campus. So I would honestly, if you're here during the week anyways, if you're on a weekend program, that's fine too. But if you're here during the week, we have a nurse on campus that you can see if you have a headache, if you're feeling the weather, or things like that. You're welcome to go see the nurse for headache. If you fell outside and scraped your knee or anything of that nature, the nurse is there to help triage and get you the supports and care you need. And if it is a more urgent situation, then we do look into having the student go to either perhaps an urgent care clinic or, if need be, the emergency room.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. I saw one really great question that would be good to just send the link directly in the chat. Somebody has asked, how specifically do they watch previous webinars? So this will include this webinar, it will include our most recent one prior to this, which was about housing, residential life, some great reminders about policy and disciplinary actions. So if you're a parent, it would be good to take a look at that. But I will go ahead and send the link. You'll basically route to summer.berklee.edu. You'll click on the About drop-down option and then click on Events, or save this link that I just sent. You'll scroll all the way down to the bottom and it'll say Past Events, and then you'll be able to see all of the different webinars. You'll click on the title of the webinar, and then after you do so, the page will load. You'll see Watch Recording. So if you click that red button that says Watch Recording, it'll pull it up for you. If you aren't registered, meaning like this is your first webinar with us, you want to go back and watch the housing one, you just have to register and it'll take you right to the recording. Then you'll be all set. So just to have that in your back pocket if you want to reference this or you want to catch up on any of our previous ones, you'll have that. I saw a really great question that says, can somebody else pick up my child? I'm assuming that this is going to be for our youth programs, and the answer is yes. The answer is yes. It's very important, though, that you do reach out to the program directors of the youth programs just to let them know. This is also great if you're local and you need your child to maybe take the T home or they're going to hop on a bus. It's just important for safety that we know that. So just you can email the program director. It can be the morning of. All of the program director contact information is at the bottom of each program-specific page. So just to answer that one quickly. And then I'll answer another one really quickly. The question is, does the debit card payment add an extra charge like the credit card does? And the answer is yes, it does. So for debit and for credit cards, It's I can look this up to confirm, but I believe it's a 2.9%, 2.95%. It's around there. It's around 2.9 or 2.95% service fee for using a card. If you would like to avoid that service fee, you can use the e-check option. I believe on the payment thing, you just have to click the drop down and then select e-check, and then it's almost like a super secure Venmo. It'll just pull it right out of your account.
To give you a bit of a break, Julia, there is a few different questions I've seen related to scheduling. So the schedule will vary the program by program, but by and large, if they are here for a weekend program or a 1 week program, what I can tell you is that the program schedule tends to be pretty packed. Of course, they will have rates for meals and the like. However, the schedule, they will be pretty much in classes, workshops, seminars, etc., from sunrise to sunset, basically. And so they have a pretty packed schedule, and there usually is very rarely downtime unless if there's devoted time to practice with a particular concept they learned or something about the respect. But the shorter programs are very packed. The 2 and 3 week programs also have a very packed schedule. They will have some downtime on the weekends. During the weekends for the 2 and 3 week programs, there might be the occasional activity that directors plan. And again, this varies program by program. But some directors might take their students to see local shows, concerts, and the like. Others might plan like museum outings and whatnot. And then if they are participating in Aspire, then during the Aspire program, there will be a bit more downtime with that, but we will have a robust student activities calendar that we are working on now to help keep students entertained for when they don't have classes. The schedule for Aspire can vary from day to day. It is meant to mimic like a typical undergraduate first semester experience at Berklee. So students might have a day that's packed full of classes, again from sunrise to sunset, and rehearsals and the like. And they might have days where they have maybe only a couple of classes, and so we'll have a pretty robust student activities calendar of the different options that students can take advantage of to meet and socialize with each other. Additionally, if they're staying in the residence halls, there will be some light programming for Aspire in the residence halls there as well too, for giving students more opportunities to meet and connect with each other.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. We have a couple of questions asking, I'll do this one. We have a couple of people, I believe that us talking about final performances might have prompted some people asking whether or not the final performances will be live streamed, which is an excellent question, especially for our folks who have students attending Boston-based programs and perhaps live in LA, which is a ridiculously long flight. For folks who are hoping to catch a live stream of a final performance, we have a Help Center article that has lists basically like which programs historically have had live streaming capacity available for folks to watch from either from home or the comfort of their laptop or their phone or something like that. So I will go ahead and place that link in the chat. Very similarly to the final performance schedule for the programs, this is subject to change, but typically is pretty accurate. So it's a great way to kind of just gauge, to like vaguely, I guess, gauge whether or not there will be live streaming available. So I'll go ahead and send that link. There's another really great question that I think could be very applicable for a wide variety of programs. The question specifically is, for the guitar sessions program, is it recommended to bring both an electric and an acoustic, or should I like pick one or the other, essentially? For all of our programs that have like maybe a little bit of a vague title, for example, the brass workshop, obviously lots of different types of brass instruments. Guitar sessions is another great example. Songwriting sessions, right? You could easily be singing and accompanying yourself on a couple different instruments. Our recommendation, definitely bring the one that you feel most well versed on. So for a songwriting workshop, if you play guitar and sing, 100% bring your guitar. If you have other things that you want to bring and you can bring them, absolutely bring them. So to answer the guitar question specifically, if acoustic is where you do the best work, bring the acoustic for sure. That's like the bare minimum. If you have the space, if you're flying and can afford to get that other guitar on the plane with you, bring it. By all means, bring it. We encourage creativity at Berklee. that includes bringing what you can. So I hope that answers that question for maybe a couple different programs.
I've seen a theme throughout that. A couple other questions that I would like, just giving general questions about how housing works. So, housing is assigned by gender identity and by age. So and also by program as well too. So if a student is 15, 16, or 17 years old on day one of their program, they will be housed separately from students who are legally adults who are 18 plus. And so the housing assignments are done based off of those demographics. For students who identify as transgender or non-binary, we will have designated spaces within the residence halls so that the students may opt or elect to be a part of if they are, again, transgender or non-binary. And we will have a member of staff will be reaching out to students who have indicated as such to gauge whether they are comfortable or more comfortable living in residence halls of a particular gender, or if they have no preference. But we'll have at least some spaces, and throughout most of our programs anyways, that are designated for transgender and non-binary students, so that they have the chance to, if they wish, to room with each other if they are more comfortable doing so.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. Okay. Let me find. This is. Let's see. Lee, this is a great question for you. So we have a couple questions regarding commuter students and what that looks like with the dining hall. Is the meal plan part of tuition? Is the meal plan part of housing? And if it is part of housing, can students still access the dining hall?
Sure. So the meal plan is a part of the housing fee. So if a student is a commuter student, they do not have access to the dining hall automatically. They would just need to pay per entry. There is the option for students, particularly if they're in Aspire, this can be a great option. After you have your ID card issued to you, there is the option to preload some value onto the Berklee card. So that way the students can swipe in and just have a declining value balance from the Berklee card for having access to dining hall. The dining hall also takes debit cards as well too if they wish to pay per entry. Again, commuter students do not get automatic access to the dining hall. What I would recommend, and probably the simplest route, is to figure out a pay-per entry process for that, or if they're in Aspire, one of the longer programs, there's the option to preload value onto the student's card so that they can do a declining balance there.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. I'm going to go ahead and answer this next question. We have a couple of people who are asking how the question that I keep seeing is, how do I sign up for electives? So if you are an Aspire student, you're registered for Aspire, your election selection process is part of your registration. So just to clarify that, before we move forward. For all other programs who have some sort of election, so electives. The ones that come to mind are songwriting workshop, I believe, and then musical theater workshop are our two big ones that have some sort of elective components. Both of those programs, you'll be able to select that in your placement assessment. So just keep that in mind. I just messaged someone to see, great. Okay, great. So I believe, yes, so that should be part of the placement video form or placement assessment form. You should be able to click through and make that selection yourself. This is the case for all of the programs, including Aspire, who have elections. We ask for your top couple choices. Just in the event that one of them fills, we want to make sure, obviously, our goal is always the student experience on campus. and we want to support that however we're able. So we always ask for a couple of options just in case one fails. You get to take at least one thing that you're excited about. And in the event that you really, really did not get the one that you wanted, you can always chat with your program director and just see what can be done, is what we always recommend. So I hope that answers that question. Great. Let's see. Lee, could you take 1 second? We have a couple of people who have been asking about what possible nights away from campus look like for residential students. Is that something that we allow? If we do allow it, are there special circumstances that we would allow it?
So nights away are not allowed for the shorter programs. However, for Aspire, we generally discourage it because we would like students to remain on campus and to be present and engaged in socializing with their peers. However, of course, there may be things that come up that necessitate them having to be off campus for a bit. So there is an approval process for nights away during Aspire. And so to get more information on that, to just reach out to summer@berklee.edu to get them to send you a link to the form, and someone on our team will review that, and if it is approved, then the students will be exempt from curfew during the night or nights that they are approved during Aspire. But there's a form basically that's if you reach out to summer@berklee.edu, they'll send, and that'll give you you can fill that out to give us the information we need to be able to make a decision. And if that is approved, then we'll email the decision, and the student will be exempt from curfew if a curfew applies to them during the nights of their approval.
Great, thanks so much, Lee. Let's see. Okay, we're doing really good on time. Okay.
I see a few different themes here about wondering what's the different housing accommodations are like. If you visit the Berklee website, there are you can find, and I'll try to see if I can find the link for this after I answer this question. But there are a few different potential views that you can have of it, giving more information about what the residence halls are and what their accommodations include. To answer one common themed question that I see, the residence halls do all have at least one washing machine in them, oftentimes more. Washer and dryer, I should say, in them. It's sometimes more depending upon the size of the residence hall. And those can be accessed. I believe there is an app that students will use that they can download and use that to pay for their laundry. And the restroom situation, it's very mixed. It depends upon the residence halls. Some residence halls do have private restrooms, and some of in all the residence halls, some residence halls have a private restroom in just a few rooms, but most don't. And most of the residence halls, I should say, will be some degree of shared bathrooms. So there might be bathrooms that are within, say, for example, a hallway, or within like a quadrant of rooms or something to that effect. So I would say most of the residence halls that we have on campus will likely have some type of a shared bathroom situation.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. While you're unmuted, will you just quickly talk about what it looks like if students are hoping to request arriving the day before and maybe staying a day late? Is that a possibility?
It is not a possibility unless if they are that is a great question, and unless if they are staying in between two consecutive programs. So for example, if a student is is attending Aspire and then is attending guitar sessions the week after and wants to stay the weekend in between, in most situations, in most cases, we usually would accommodate something like that. So, they can reach out to summer@berklee.edu to get the form that they need to fill out in order to request access to that. If that is approved, it is an additional $50 cost per night that'll be added to their accounts that they can pay for that. But otherwise, unfortunately, we just don't have good systems in place for accommodating students at either an early arrival or late departure. Additionally, there's a very tight turnaround time for one program ending and another summer program beginning. So we need to have the residence halls cleared out on time in order to give our cleaning staff the adequate amount of time to get everything ready for the next summer program checking in. So again, it is usually allowed if a student is attending 2 consecutive programs that they could stay, say for example, the weekend in between the program. Otherwise, early arrivals and late departures are not allowed.
Great, thank you so much, Lee. There are a couple questions that I believe Lee answered, but it's a really quick answer. So in case it was not answered, I will go ahead and just quickly answer it. We have a couple people who are asking specifically what free time looks like in between classes. There was one person who asked, what does free time look like during 5 week? So I'll do my best to kind of answer week long or like less than 5 weeks, and also what 5 week free time looks like. So if a student has a little bit of free time in their day, or perhaps for 5 week it is a college, the schedule for 5 week mimics a college schedule. So they might have like a couple hours free. We encourage them to, make sure that they're like up to date on homework, if they have assignments, if they need to practice, that they prioritize those things. But they're more than welcome to explore the surrounding areas of campus. Campus is in such a fabulous part of the city. One of our biggest questions is how do we ensure safety of students, especially if they're residential. There are a couple of different ways that we do that while still encouraging them to like go out and explore and have fun and learn that skill of independence in a safe way. One of which, if they're residential, is our curfew check, which I'm gonna just save a little bit of time and encourage you to watch our most recent webinar. We talk a lot about curfew, what that looks like, but it's either between 10 and 10:30 p.m. every night. It's the best way that we can ensure safety of students. On top of that, there's a public safety escort line that's open 24/7. So in the event that maybe you stray a little too far, you're lost, or something happens and you feel a little uncomfortable, you can always call public safety and they'll escort you back. And then in addition to that, we always giggle about this as like local people, local Bostonians, that you can always tell when summer programs are in session because the students make fast friends, just like so fast, and then they tend to travel in little herds and block the sidewalk a little bit, which is why I'm giggling. But it's not a common thing to see a summer program student kind of wandering about on their own. Typically, they stick together in groups. And that's also, how we encourage that they should explore the city is in groups or in pairs. So if they have free time, they're more than welcome to leave. They're more than welcome to grab lunch. If you're a parent in the area, you can take them out for dinner if they're free. You can take them out for lunch. We just ask that they're back, if they're, again, under 18, that they're back by curfew. I hope that answered that question quickly. We'll try to do a couple other questions. This is a great question. Somebody has asked, do classes start the day that you check in, or is it the day after that? And I'll do my best to answer again for 1 week, 2 week, and 3 week programs, and then for 5 week. So for all of our programs, aside from Aspire, you will absolutely have programming that first day. 100% you will have programming that first day. This also might answer a question. I don't know if it was perhaps answered in writing by one of our advisors, but in case it was not, if for whatever reason you arrive, you have a delayed flight, your train is late, there's something, your car breaks down, and you can't get there in that window, that check-in window, we will have people on campus who are ready to help. Lee, maybe you can pull up the late arrival help center article and share it in the chat. It has some really helpful policies, really helpful information on what to do in the event that you have to arrive late. All of our check-in times are in the morning. Typically, check-in wraps up around 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. And pretty soon after that, usually an hour within the check-in window closing, program-related events will go ahead and kick in. So again, that's for everything but Aspire. For Aspire specifically, we intentionally have really light programming that first weekend, only because it is 5 weeks long. It can be a really big social adjustment, even for kids who have gone to stay away camp before. So we just want to make sure that they have the time that they need to like move in, settle in, get situated. It's why we've asked commuter students to go ahead and just come on July 6th, just because July 5th is going to be checking in, moving in, and reviewing housing protocols and policies. July 6th is when we'll start to see a little bit more things on campus. There'll be some placement things here and there. There'll be some fun events from the faculty, I believe, will perform on Saturday. Sunday, there'll be a couple other placement things that will be happening, and a big opening celebration that happens on Sunday night. Monday, students will get their academic schedules, and classes will begin on Monday. So I hope that clears up that weekend. Again, we do though ask that you come on the 5th if you're residential and check in, and on the 6th if you're a commuter student. Okay, we are making really great progress today. Why don't we go ahead and try to answer 2 more questions before we wrap up today? Let us see, and as I'm looking for a question, just a quick reminder that you can email, if we did not get to your question today, you can always email our advising team at summer@berklee.edu. Let us see. This is a frequently asked question. Somebody has asked, is it possible to ship items to campus prior to check-in? So let me go ahead and pull up our instructions for this. The answer is yes. Students may receive mail and packages during your program, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. You will need to have, if you're the student in question, you do need to bring your ID. So make sure you bring your ID. If you go to the general Berklee website, you can search like where is the mail room, and it'll pull up all of this information. If you need the specific mailing address, you can email. Actually, I'll just post it in the chat. If you are in a week-long program, we do recommend that you go ahead and ship that a couple of days in advance of the start date of the program. If it comes before the program starts, we won't be able to issue it to the student. So that is going to be like a little bit of a tricky window to navigate. It has to arrive at the earliest the first day of your program. Aspire, obviously, it's a little bit more easy. It's an easier process because you have 5 weeks to get that done. Weekend programs, we do not recommend that you attempt to do like letters or Amazon shipments or anything like that. This is a very long message, but I'll go ahead and just send this now as far as mailing instructions. And let's try to get one more in here. Lee, are you seeing anything?
I'm scanning, trying to.
Let's see. This is a really great question, and actually a couple people asked it back to back. If your program has a scheduled event, right? You're going to go on a duck boat tour. You're going to see a sunset cruise, something like that, and the program is hosting it. It's hosted by Berklee. That event is hosted at no cost to the student. Having said that, one of the examples that we always give, right? Let's say you go on a duck boat tour. If you really want to buy a duck boat hat that's like, I went on the tour, that is where we recommend that you bring a little bit of money with you, just in case you want like a souvenir or a snack or something like that. But at the front end of that cost, there's no financial expectation. If your program is going, then it's been paid for and all students have the opportunity. The exception to that is 5 week. There are a couple of events that are raffled off. So 5 week goes to like the Red Sox game is a big one. I think we're going a couple times this summer just to increase that opportunity for students. That will be raffled. So the students selected for that opportunity, still no cost unless they like want a hot dog at Fenway Park. Then that will come out of the student's pocket. But tickets, that is covered by Berklee. All right, and with that, we are going to have to wrap up this webinar. That concludes our webinar on next steps for this upcoming summer. Again, thank you so much to Lee for joining us and for our advising team for answering questions behind the scene. Our team really hopes that you found this session helpful and informative, but again, if you have any pending questions, please feel free to email us at summer@berklee.edu. As a quick heads up, our next webinar will be on May 22nd and will be specifically designed for students enrolled in our program starting in June. So, if that applies to you, you're one of our June Berklee kids, please feel free to register under the Events tab on our website and join us in about a month. And thank you again to all of you guys for joining us today. I know Lee and I had a blast And we hope to see all of you on campus at Berklee this summer.
Thank you, everyone.